Thank you. Welcome everybody to this evening's full council meeting. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence.
So we've had apologies from Councillor Lumley, Councillor Lambourne, Councillor B Newport, Councillor L Newport, Councillor Baldwin, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Linden, Councillor Page, Councillor I Wilson, Councillor V Wilson and Councillor Ward.
Thank you. Second item is declaration of members' interest to receive declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests for this meeting. We'll go around the table. Councillor Brewer, District Council, Councillor James Newport,
Rochford District Council, Essex County Council,
Councillor Matt O'Leary,
Rochford District Council,
Councillor Sperring, no interests, Councillor Stanley,
I'll do so.
thank you, and Councillor Sutton. So this evening, we're here to speak to agree the Town Council's response to the draft Rochford District Council local plan. So we've all had a chance to read through Rochford District Council's local plan. Who would like to speak first? Oh, sorry, public session. I'm sorry, I completely missed out.
Chairman, can I just ask the clerk? We've received some advice from the monitoring officer today, and I've got to be perfectly honest, I didn't understand it. I couldn't make head or tail whether we'll, as district councillors, can comment on this or not, and it wasn't clear. So could you give us your interpretation, please?
So my interpretation of what the monitor officer had said was that it was essentially down to personal judgment. So ultimately it's down to your individual judgment as to whether you want to take part or not.
Right, okay.
Unfortunately, also we can't guide any more than what the monitor officer has said.
I can come back on that. It does say that, but it also does say we're not predetermined. So it says be careful what you say because you could be predetermined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really unhelpful advice. And it's put those of us who are on Rochford District Council in a real particular blindslide in how we respond to this consultation. As town council.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. The advice wasn't very clear.
Yeah.
Obviously we can't.
I think it's important that, but especially if we got
Yeah,
quite a few members of the public, many members of the public here that we normally have, that some of us might not be able to comment specifically on sites, specific sites. So like.
Right, so
Sorry, because I am really concerned about this because this could impact when it gets a decision as a district council, or when this actually goes through to council. So if we were to say we've made an observation, do you think that could be determined as predetermination or not? I mean, I know
I wouldn't have thought so.
So the main point I got from the advice that the monitoring officer sent out, it says, I would say that where a district councillor has participated in the discussion to consult on the local plan reg 18 document as set out above, is that in all probability unlikely to create a risk of bias and predetermination arising. So unlikely to create a risk of bias and predetermination.
If you go on to read it, then qualifies that. If you do say anything, you are
I
predetermined.
think, Chairman, you're taking it out of context, and I think by reading part of that email is not very helpful, especially for members of the public to understand. So I think that I will go with what our clerk says, who's the proper officer.
Yeah.
And I will make observations, but I will not, I will keep an open mind on it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, we've got a number of members of the public who wanted to speak here this evening. Jill Way, would you like to go first?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's already like here first. So thank you, Chair. Through you, I'd like to speak to the whole of the council. I used to be a councillor in 2021 when there was no recommendation by an officer worrying about the fact that anyone got included in their local spatial options 2021 regulation 18. It was very detailed. I say brilliant, but there was a lot of us there that was doing it as a job for over a month, working it through, and many of us still here tonight. What I would say is what I've seen this evening is for an extraordinary town council on one subject that only 10 councillors turned up. That is shocking, absolutely shocking, especially as 5 of the ones that have turned up are district councillors and 5 are town only. So thank you to the town only, and thank you for the district and Essex County Council that's turned up as well. But that concerns me because the chair of the planning committee, Councillor Ian Wilson, isn't even here. So the town council chair of planning isn't here either. So what I say to you first of all is this is one of the most important things the town council's ever going to do. We did it 5 years ago. I would look to you all to do it again. Last time you didn't name any specific sites for that fear of observation or whatever. You made it very clear what you thought was the best spatial options. And what I can see now from the new one is that Mr. Alberti said, and they've put majority of the housing in the Rayleigh and Rochford area, Rayleigh and Rochford area, which is an urban extension by any other name or link us to Hopley. So I would request that you would look again at what you did in 2021. I've given a copy to the chair and vice chair. I'm sure it can be run off the system for anyone, and add an addendum to it, because that is a weighty piece of done in 1 week. You really need to break it down into sections. And again, be careful for what you say. But I'd love to ask you to fill in forms about certain specific sites, but I recognise that you have to be careful with that too. If you also could put the word out, we've only got a week to go, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, did you want to?
Yeah, then I can,
your
yeah.
item, and then you can.
Okay, thank you. Right, so unfortunately Saturday I experienced an event which probably potentially will haunt me, but I've done what was needed to do at the time. Unfortunately, coming back from an event with my daughter and my wife, cheerleading competition, went into Rayleigh to get a takeaway for dinner, walked into Rayleigh Kebab Hut, and I was greeted by a screaming fit of people, and unfortunately a gentleman had a heart attack and was laying on the floor. With the basic first aid knowledge I've got, I undertook CPR on the man. We managed to keep him alive until the ambulance got there. He left in the ambulance and he was alive. Unfortunately, when he got to Basildon Hospital, he had another heart attack and died. My concern is everyone, with everything was going on, and I'm trying to concentrate on what I was doing, everyone's running around like headless chickens trying to find a DPIP. There's one in Pink Toothbrush, 8:10, it's not open. One in Smile Centre, they're closed. So everyone's running around. Now, when you go on to find a DPIP near me, that they are located in Rayleigh, I'm not disputing none of that. But when you actually look at the statistics, there's two factors here. Sorry. Without early DPIP, survival rate outside hospital is under 10%. With CPR and a DPIP used quickly within 3 to 5 minutes, survival rate can be 50 to 70%. If a shot is delivered in about 1 minute, survival rate can be close to 90%. Okay, every minute without DPIP reduces survival rate by 10%. So, well, I'm not disputing that you guys haven't fitted DPIPs, but the next point is there were locations of them. So when you go through another thing I found, your brain will only remember certain things where things are located. So it says if you spot something 1 to 2 times, you may recognise them, but probably won't remember where it is. 3 to 5 times, your brain starts to form a weak memory of the location. 7 to 10 times, the location often becomes fairly reliable in memory. 10 times plus, it tends to become automatic knowledge. So for me, you have one down on Crown Hill, but only the punters going to the train station probably will ever see that. To me, that needs to relocate into the centre by the clock tower, where every day people walking up and down the high street. At some point, if someone had seen that and it was stored in their memory, there might have been a different outcome from Saturday night. And that's all. If I can get any positive out Saturday night and try and get that DFib relocated, then there is a positive after everything what's gone on, and that's all I'm, you know.
Thank you, sorry you had to go through that. Councillor Newport.
Thank you, Chairman, and yeah, thanks for bringing it to our attention, Mike. What I do know is that this issue has been raised previously at the district council some time ago, and a motion was put forward about defibs locations, but we've also looked at it here. And at that time, we were told that when you phone the ambulance service, the East of England Ambulance Service, all of the defibs are registered on the circuit, and they should actually direct whoever phones them to that defib.
Completely correct, but the bang on pink toothbrush door trying to get in now.
Right, okay. So obviously that information about it being closed isn't on the circuit, right?
Yeah.
So on your point, I think that, and this has been raised here at Reading Town Council as well, and it's something that I think we'll all be passionate about, is looking at what the recommended distances are between defibs to cover Rayleigh.
Yeah.
And then obviously working with the circuit as well on issues such as you've raised and the East of England Ambulance, because obviously it was no good to that gentleman at that time, was it? And if anything saves a life, then it's obviously worth investing in, and I'm sure every taxpayer would agree with that, because it could be any one of us.
I think Braden's probably got quite a few defibs. It's the locations my concern.
Yeah, so I think my personal view is that this council could undertake a project to pick up those issues that you've raised, but also with the circuit, and do that. So I'm happy to propose that. If someone will second that,
I'll second.
Thank you, guys.
So
Thank you.
we can take that.
Yeah, I think we've got
Sorry, do you want a clear motion, John, or are you happy just to?
Yeah, I've got to most of that, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'd all be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All agree? Everyone's agreed. Yeah, and it will, I think we'll report back the findings of that and the actions which the town council will take.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing, thank you.
Councillor Sutton, did you still want to speak?
Yeah, please, briefly. I've been speaking to Mike about this as well. I think raising awareness about the locations of the defibs is, imperative, and them being the most suitable locations. But I think almost an educational drive for shop workers and anybody working in the high street about how to find and how to unlock those defibs. That is a separate drive I think we need to be focusing on as well. So if the council could potentially look at offering some sort of a poster or signage out to every shop for those locations, it'd be great.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Mike. Thanks.
I'd like to go to the other meeting now. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
But I like.
See you later.
Thanks, Brian.
Cheers.
Councillor Stanley.
Thank you. Could I ask that the council to put a larger leaflet in our display board so that would indicate where they are, please?
There'll be several actions off the back of this being brought up this evening, so yeah. So I've got next couple to speak, thank you.
Yeah, I've just got 2 points to make about the local. We've had various leaflets through our door about the Hambro Hill development proposed. One from Hollybrook, who are the developers, and the one I've got here is from the Liberal Democrats. Now, Hollybrook have shown their plan, which is showing land, so from Hambro Hill, from the car based story shop up towards the Hockley Road as just that area, whereas the other map is showing that area and then coming down London, Hambro Hill, using the story shop and past the wood house and the field where all the rabbits run as being part of the development. So I don't know which one is correct.
They're both correct.
They're both. Okay. Sorry, hang on.
Sorry.
So was that both your points or was there anything else?
No, that was the first point. The other one was I just wanted to say, rather than having all these separate sites in Rayleigh, wouldn't it be better, or perhaps we could consider new purpose-built towns where all the amenities and services are put in during the initial construction, rather than adding to, you know, an existing over-congested town already.
That would be a suitable comment to put into your, if you made an individual response to the local plan, either online or using that paper form and delivering it back to the council offices. But that's exactly the sort of thing that they want to hear. Councillor O'Leary, you wanted to?
Yeah, just on the first point, that leaflet was taking exactly what was in the local plan that was published by Watford District Council, that site. So that site is what's in the document. I can only assume, I think this, off the top of my head, they're only talking about 150 houses in this document, whereas there's 315 houses for that site. So that's why there's that discrepancy between the two. Because I'm assuming there must be another developer.
So considering
Site split.
the whole site then.
Yeah. That is not all the houses that are being proposed for that site. It's all, unfortunately. Yeah.
Councillor Stanley, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just to give you some sort of information, there's Lower Wyburns, which is opposite the Hambro trade shops. That's sorry, not Lower Wyburns, Lower Lubbock's rather. There is one at Lower Wyburns, but that's not in your area. The Lubbock's one is the larger one of the two. The other one, as you would know, is at Hambro Hill, and the other one is at the bottom of Hambro Hill. If you had direct vision right the way through, then that would be the other development that we're talking about. So there's three really, really local to Hambro Hill, three of them. And if they was, let me put it this way, if they was to be developed, there'd be queues everywhere, and there is queues everywhere at the moment. But I think you'll find that that is correct.
Councillor Stanley, thank you.
Sorry, if I just make one more point.
Yes.
Yeah, so the reference you want to look at in the local plan, just to come back to what we were saying, and I'm hoping it's on that leaflet, is CFS 105A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just ask a question. So does that actually show where the houses are going to go, where the road's going to go into? It doesn't do anything, it's just the plot of land.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a borderline, isn't it?
Yeah.
So my house is actually right on the corner of where that development is going to be. So I am literally next door to the woodyard, and there's an access road that goes past. It's obviously quite congested anyway, because you get the transport going in there into the actual car parking place where they do the refurbs. But obviously, like, that's now, I should imagine, is going to be access road for that property, is that right? You don't know.
I think so.
I think,
Councillor Nicholl.
yeah, I think when you're looking at specifics like that, so at this stage, it is just the plots of land. That will come later in an outline planning and reserve matters, a layout site. If at the moment, we're just looking at the basis of that plot of land being suitable for the residential, which is what says in the local plan. Some sites might have mixed use, some could be a traveller site, for example. But what I would do is, if you want to get into those specifics and understand about the transport and all of that, because I think a lot of residents will be very concerned over highways matters.
Yeah.
And you should also comment on that aspect. So when you're putting in, say, just for example, if you put CFS 1058, you could say, I object because I think that we shouldn't build on Greenbelt, but also because of the highways restrictions, it will cause issues on the highway, and I see another comment today about construction management as well. How are they ever going to deliver to there, because they'd have to come through the high street, blah, blah, blah. I'll just give you an example, but pick it up with your ward councillors, because they go into more detail.
So it's not the place to discuss that sort of thing, really. Like, if you're thinking about this, this is something you're going to be thinking about in the future.
It's good that,
The infrastructure and the roads and the accidents that happen on that road and the congestion, what
Yeah, yeah.
makes you bring all of that up?
no, absolutely, this is the town council's response to it, but you would have your own individual as well.
Okay.
So you can put those in, I'm sure we'll pick up on the same issues.
Yeah, you will. Yeah.
But it's just that everyone can have their say, and this is just a body basically that will respond.
So, can I just say one more thing? So what happens if you was to agree, this is the first part of it, obviously, and then it goes into the next stage, is that when you start going in, it's the nitty gritty of where everything goes?
We don't agree this is the district council, it's a local planning authority, that
Right.
will agree to the local plan, not this council.
This meeting is to discuss the town council's response to the local plan that the district have put out.
You haven't actually got a plan, so you know what it actually looks like, yeah, you're just.
So
the general
the
area.
big document here, that's what they've put out with all the different sections in it. And they've got, you can go on and read the whole document, it's all online. And they're asking for your responses to it, but it's not, and they're looking at suitability of lots of different sites that are listed, the one next to you included. And but this is the local plan in general, and then the specific sites will come up individually if they fit into the local plan that as agreed. So we're not anywhere near the specific end of it yet. Okay, does that answer your question sufficiently? I think
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
I think the thing is, that leaflet that I gave you a copy of, if you go online, you'll get to this website, the Rochford District Local Plan website, and I think you'll have to start reading through all of that. And where this is for us to formulate as a town council our response from Rayleigh, actually, Rayleigh Town Council response to this local plan to the district. So it is useful to hear individuals' concerns and whatnot, but it helps us form our opinion because we all are residents. Yeah, but we can't be any more specific than that. Whoever was first up
So
there.
similar to this gentleman's comment here, I'm not familiar with this particular forum and how this works, so perhaps you could just outline exactly what the process is, because we've heard about the plans.
Yeah,
We have horses on that field, and the owner of that field is not sharing anything really, or very little at the moment, which may have a good reason for it. So at what stage is the plan at in terms of acceptance, approval, public notice? At what stage are we at?
it's nowhere, not near that. So Councillor O'Leary.
It
Yeah.
was.
So just to be clear,
Yeah.
this isn't this council's plan.
I understand that now. I didn't
So
intend
what
to
we're
go
doing
there.
is we are as a town council, and they go around the last Hockley Parish Council, the last Ashenden, the last
Yeah.
Rochford Parish Council. What do you think of this plan? And this plan is the first part of it's a part of the consultation process. So we're saying, generally speaking, what we think of it tonight, that will go back to them. They'll take that away, and then they'll come back after the summer with the next phase where it starts to get much more drilled down into. And you'll start to see actually what sites are being used and where, and what are accepted and what aren't accepted.
But this decision maker is the district?
District council, correct. So we are just a consultee in this process, like you are essentially as residents.
If I may, Chairman,
Councillor.
while the district council may make recommendations, central government may just roll over the whole lot bit and tell them this is our view. They can accept the Rochford District Council's view, or they can, let's say, literally ride straight over it. And I think, well, I won't go any further at the moment, but that's the long and the short of it.
Where in the whole process, if you see it as a flow chart, a number of stepped events, where is it if you start to?
There is on the website, the Rochford District Council website, that we've got up on the screen. There is a timeline. So if you can go onto that website, there is a whole timeline for the whole process and what we're doing at each, or what they are doing at each stage. And
Yeah.
So for example, we have to give our response and you can give your response to this first part by Tuesday the 24th.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the whole timeline about, what's happening when. So this is just the very beginning to put the big ideas in, and as councillor Sperring just said, I mean, it's, we'll put our ideas, response, you can all put your responses in as individuals, then they'll make this plan and they'll set it and then the next thing will happen. So when we're not near those.
So I understand. Where in the process is taking soil samples and that type of activity? If you know this process well, where is it?
Not yet.
So
They've been over.
Well, they've been doing soil samples.
That would just be fed in.
Sorry, councillor Newport.
Yeah, and I think there is some confusion because what's happening here, okay, is the application that you're talking about is outside of this process. That's called a speculative application. So developers can come along and they can speculatively put an application in on a site. So you're saying about soil samples, okay? It may be that a developer has an option on that land and they're going to put in a speculative application. I don't know, but they may be preparing something. The same as what's happening with that site that you mentioned earlier on Hambro Hill. That's a speculative application. The call for sites is where the council, the local planning authority, controls the sites that will be developed over a period of time. But what's happened is because the council hasn't got a local plan, developers can come along, put these in, and it's not so robust for the council to go back and fight against them because developers say you haven't got the delivery of the housing in this area, and that's what's happening right now, and that's why we're seeing a lot of them, and they're getting in on, well, the doors are open, they're getting in quick. But that's what's happening in a lot of areas, and that's why you're seeing all these applications come forward before this process has concluded. So it's harder for the planning authority to control development right now. And that's the reality of it.
So it's pretty important then that we mention in all of our demands and questions regarding this proposed developments, which seem to be pepper potting all over the place in Raleigh at the moment. It's complete sense. Is to probably ask the questions of what is this infrastructure going to look like? Because Hambro Hill at the moment is not an A road. And it's acting like an A road at the moment. The car every second drives up and down that road, leading off Hoop, so I'm just thinking, obviously, I get the feeling in the room that no one pretty much likes this idea or this idea of this development. That will go to the district council that will pick that up. How long do you think after the district council got this negativity from everybody, will they actually work upon? Yeah, what I'm saying is, once they have submitted their viewpoint of whether this should go ahead or not, how long is it before a decision is made, do you think?
I don't know whether that's a question that we can answer this evening. I mean, it is.
See, my worry is, it seems bordering very speculative and it's taking place all over the place at the moment. And it's speculative planning does involve bringing out leaflets like this as well anyway, about what we would propose to do. And from the building industry myself, I know what this is all about and understand this. But my worry is they look like they're ready to pounce.
Yeah.
And my concern is they're going to pounce before everyone starts figuring out what's going on. And I was just wondering what that time is.
That's why it is important to maybe take this back and sit down, have a look. I mean, it does say the planning inspector, summer 27, there will be another public consultation. And most local plans go through this stage.
So as we get further through the process, and Councillor Sperring also knows this, that as we get further through this local plan process at the district council, that evidence will then form part of an emerging local plan, and then it will be able to be used with more weight against these developments. So the further you get through the process, the more weight that you put on if you want to refuse a site or say, actually, that shouldn't be there because actually we want to build a larger conurbation over there. And that's what will happen. It evolves over time. So it is a moving picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may, Chairman, I'm not on the district council now, I was for many years, but it may be, and perhaps my colleagues here can tell me, the levels of housing that is being indicated at the moment could fluctuate. The government could say, well, actually, we want more.
Yeah.
Or they could say we want less.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all pretty much of the same mind here. You know, some of us have lived in Rayleigh for a very long time. Probably I've lived here a lot longer than most people. But we all share the same view. It's how do we address this situation? Nobody wants huge developments next door to them. But we know there are going to be big developments. The infrastructure is a major issue because a lot of the roads can't be expanded because there's already houses there.
The problem as well, it's like doctors and school.
Oh yeah, you can go on about doctors, that's not a planning issue.
I know it's not planned, what I'm saying is that's never planned, it's part of the plan, it's only.
I'm just going to, so Councillor Stanley, just quickly, and then I think that we'll close this public session and then we'll be able to carry on with our discussion, if that's okay, because I mean, we've allowed quite a bit of back and forth conversation today because obviously that's a bit more friendly and nice to do it. You wouldn't be able to do this at district. Councillor Stanley.
Can I just ask the audience, the residents in front of me, should you require more information than what you think is not being given to you from the plan that's now in a booklet, do ask your ward councillors. You have somebody on the Hambro Hill United Community Group that knows those councillors that you can get in touch with. Do get in touch with them. That's all I've got to say, because it is too much to stay in one evening as to what's going on. So do get in touch with them and they will let you. And we at Rochester District Council and at the Town Council, we know what's going on. More, in fact, more so than what you do yourself.
So thank you, Councillor Stanley. So for the rest of the evening, if you choose to stay, it will just be a discussion amongst councillors rather than coming back to the public, and the public will just have to observe. Sorry about that. That's how it is.
Good.
Thank you. So, right, we'll go to the bit that I skipped over. So it was local plan consultation to agree the town council's response to the draft Whiteford District Council local plan. So I don't know if any of us want to speak on an idea around this. Carry on, Councillor O'Leary, no, you first.
All right, I was going to basically come back to one of the points raised by Jill Waits around the local plan spatial options consultation in 2021. So for me, a lot of what's in that is still relevant now in terms of, it talks about the the existing infrastructure, the existing traffic problems, local roads and junctions under pressure, residents already feel pressure on the GPs, dentists, the schools, the drainage, there's a whole range of things in there that are still relevant that we could use as the basis for our response. I think what has changed since that 2021 response is that, if anything, the new local plan, the new draft local plan, actually provides evidence that supports even more what's in that 2021 document.
Yeah.
So, for example, talking about the roads and the junctions that are getting more and more congested. The new local plan, the draft local plan, is saying the majority of junctions will now be severely congested, which is a major concern. You know, if you look at schools, if you look at Rainy, if you look at Rainy primary schools, the primary schools in Rainy, that's been declared red. Where's the infrastructure coming on that? If you're building new houses, you can't just have a hope that someone builds a school. You've got to find places for those kids who are coming into the area to go to school. So I think basically what I would say we need to sort of get at is use the local plan spatial option consultation. And also say we're deeply concerned about growth of our infrastructure. The council's own draft plan says roads, schools, healthcare, flood risk must be addressed. Its own evidence says that without intervention, cumulative development will lead to severe congestion. So what we already know, Rayleigh is under pressure, and our response should be no major growth affecting Rayleigh should proceed unless transport, school places, healthcare and drainage are planned, funded and delivered instead or before development comes forward. That's my 2 pence on it.
Thank you. Councillor Sperring.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was one of them involved in that 21 formula. Fully endorse what Councillor O'Leary has said. I think the biggest problem is none of us really know what the target is. That's the nub of it. We can't start trying to protect this site or that site because we don't know which ones are going to be the preferred sites. To add to more confusion, you're talking about congestion. We've just been discussing this evening the development Fitzwymark School, which is virtually going to be knocked down. So the Hockley Road's going to come to a standstill as well.
Sorry.
A lot of it. No, but what I'm saying is all these issues are building up onto us, and we're going to have to sit down with the council. I mean, we can universally just say there's an overdevelopment of the Rayleigh district. Simple as that. We're overdeveloping green belt land. There's no planned infrastructure as far as we can see at the moment, although I do understand that traffic surveys and all this sort of stuff is going on in the background. But a lot of this stuff, as I say, I agree with what Councillor O'Leary has said. By and large, this is our ground level. Yes, we can elaborate on it, but nothing's changed. This is an overdevelopment of a town that has limited capacity for the improvement of infrastructure. For the reasons I've said, most of the roads are already, both sides, the houses are there. So where are you going to put all these other roads? The better solution, as somebody said, is a town where you've got easy access to the A127, something like this, rather than trying to build it up in Hambro Hill, the Hockley Road, this sort of thing. There is no capacity. There might be a bit in certain areas on the Hockley Road, but you're talking about 200 yards as you go up Alderman's Hill. That's about it. The rest of it, we're effectively by now already at gridlock. I know some of the sites I've talked about at the back of Nelson Road, Wellington Road, that's got to come out on the Hockley Road. You can't, there's nothing to develop there. There's already houses on both sides. So where are you going to put the infrastructure? And as I say, until I think you start seeing some of the specifics of sites, and then you start arguing about this one doesn't work, that one does work, all we can do is just put a very bland, this is an overdevelopment of the town, the infrastructure isn't acceptable. I say, before you start talking about schools and all the other bits and pieces, which are educational issues.
Councillor Sperry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chair. Apart from what we've got in that 2021 document that we actually produced, we should emphasise a little bit more on since 2021, I think, into the structure of how roads and how we use them in as much as transport links. Now, I'm talking about buses and the other ideas of getting around. We don't happen to have and I think, can't remember if that's in there, but
Yes.
if it's in there about, cycleways.
Yeah.
There is some of it in there, but I still feel that, with the emphasis that the government is making on cycling and less car movements, it doesn't seem to work very well, and I think we ought to emphasise that a little bit more in that. Thank you.
That's a new thought.
Thank you, Chairman. So I've got a couple of points to make on this, and I concur with councillor O'Leary and councillor Sparrow, but one of the things that I like to raise also that I hear many times from residents is that residents aren't happy with the types of housing that is delivered, that say it's too big, they're unaffordable. And what I hear from residents is where we do, because if we do have any development, residents have said to me that they want to see smaller houses, they want to see 1 and 2 beds, for younger people. They also said to me that they want to see social housing. They want people to not be locked out of moving out of home, young people, 20s and their 30s. So I think I personally feel that should be part of our response. We should be representing younger people as well. And that's on the basis of what housing, maybe is forced upon the town. I think we all agree that infrastructure is stretched beyond breaking point here. And ideally, we don't want any. My preference is for a new garden village. So Chelmsford have shown us in Essex what can be done with new garden villages, delivering schools, GPs, large scale development. So we need to strategically look at the district as a whole to see where we can deliver something like that if it is possible. It may not be possible because a lot of the area, of course, floods. One of the other things, Chairman, that I have noted in this document, and I will be specific about this, is that under the open spaces, and one of our own assets has been put down here as an open space type of football, which is John Fisher Park, where it is not a football pitch, it is an open space.
Yeah.
So I think we need to correct the district council on what they have, because that does have a material impact on that space for our residents. The other thing I think that we need to also respond on, and this is something that I see time and time again where it says brownfield first. I'd like to know how that policy can be. My understanding is you cannot make developers take a brownfield first approach, but I'd like to know how the district council intends to enforce that. I don't think we've got many brownfield sites in Rayleigh, but even if it's a brownfield first, is that brownfield first site suitable with the right infrastructure? Because they sometimes, if you're changing from a office or something, you may only have 1 or 2 cars. If you then put a load of houses on it, that's a load more cars. So I think we really need to be looking at that also. I think rather than, I'd like to just forward the rest of my comments to the clerk to add into an addendum. I think we're on this because there are lots of other issues. No one's mentioned fabulous sites. That's something that's always been contentious. Councillor Sparrow knows about it. So Councillor Sparrow, I think we both agree. We're both at the district. We've had this conversation many times. I think that's something else that residents will be concerned about. So we need to at least put something in as a response on that. I'm sure we can agree on that together.
So, thank you. So, this, however many 100-page document that I ploughed through over a few hours and had a look at all the different, there's 54 questions that we can specifically respond to, but they make the questions all are the same. They are, do you agree with whatever the policy number is? Should we take an approach as a town council to go through this through these questions and say, do we agree with strategic policy MG1, which is about the spatial strategy prioritising urban sites etc., then should we make a response to, do we agree with strategic policy MG2 about the green belt, MG4 about developer contributions? I think that although this is a good basis for our response, that we need to put it into a slightly more formal response and respond to all of the things that we are talking about this evening, but in a more formal way, and put them in the correct section that they're asking for the response to. Councillor Newport.
I agree. I think councillors could look at the policies, they could comment on individual policies, they don't have to agree, comment on all of them. Clark collates it, it's sent round.
Yeah.
I agree. We haven't talked about town centres. Our residents are very concerned about the town centre. In there's a reference to the town centre area of action plan. We know that was done years ago,
2015.
well out of date. Town centres have changed so much now. Our residents, we hear from them time and time again, not another barber shop, not another salon, no offence to anyone in the room, but we need to look at those policies and how, as the Rayleigh Town Council, we help to shape our town centre. And what policies would work for us, and we don't want the district telling us what our town centre should look like. So I think I'm with you. I think we could send our responses in based on all those different policies.
Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. There's 33 policies, right? Simply.
54 questions.
Yeah,
with
but
54 sections,
yes.
but maybe we don't need,
Yeah,
maybe we're not interested in all of them.
Yeah, so what I was going to suggest is there's the policy groupings, which were kindly provided to me by someone tonight. It breaks it down into 33 policy sections. Yeah.
Yeah.
What we could do is we could send those out, because I think there's a number of councillors who aren't here tonight, some for valid reasons. And we need to emphasise to those councillors that there's 15,000 homes they're supposed to be coming into this district. We've only identified 11,000 as far as I can tell. And nearly 5,000 of those are going into Rayleigh. I think it's incumbent upon members who aren't here tonight to also contribute on this, not just us. If we're going to go away and do an addendum, maybe we say to them, you've got a day or two to come back with any comments you want to make on these specific.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer all of them, come back and answer. So I think that's important that we get as a representative a response from this council as possible. At the moment, there's only 10 of us here who pointed that. So I think that's important that we make sure people are asked that question. Councillors are made aware of why it's important.
Yeah, so we could break these down into smaller sections, like for example, we don't have to answer strategy NE2 about the Essex coast, because we haven't got the coast.
Yeah.
In Rayleigh, because this is a response from Rayleigh.
Yeah.
About Rayleigh.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, I think, as well in this room. Councillor Stanley.
Yes, I think our response should be for what Rayleigh Town Council and its residents want, rather than what the Rochford and the whole district want.
Yeah, so this is our response with regards to Rayleigh, so we don't need to talk about Wallasey Island.
But we need to, what I'm trying to say, it's, I know we're answering those questions, but we should put our response as well as our policies of what we want in policy making, in for our residents. It's all very well answering questions for those policies that they want. Where we want to understand is what we are doing for Rayleigh Town Council and its residents.
Thank you, Councillor Sperring.
Joe, can we just clarify then? So the next step forward is that the clerk will send out a questionnaire to all councillors with an instruction to get it back within 48 hours. Responses within 48 hours.
What do we think about this?
We can circulate it to all councillors, give them a deadline.
48 hours.
Yeah.
Very short.
We'll have to put them together.
And then if necessary, you call an emergency meeting.
We won't have time.
We won't have time.
Well then. So we send it in as as to Rochford District Council Or do we send it to the clerk who then coordinates these or what the response is?
This is our-
Yeah,
This is our response as Rayleigh Town
And
Council,
council.
but it'll be the clerk that'll
And
be.
And the
making our
councillors'
response.
individual comments are attached.
So I believe maybe as councillors' individual comments you can individually fill in the response online. So this would be our response as Rayleigh Town Council. So the individual comments will be collated. If you want to make specific individual comments as an individual, which is what I did
Additionally,
during my hours.
yeah,
Reading through all of this, you can do that online, there's nothing stopping you, but this is a response that's
Yeah.
agreed as a council, not as an individual.
yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay.
So once, so Chairman, just so I fully understand, so once you've received all the responses, will you
Within the deadline.
send a summary of that round to councillors?
Yes, so obviously,
Not to change,
yeah,
kind of just,
to know.
For information.
no,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so obviously we'll give them a 48-hour deadline. I will then compile it based on the majority view from all the responses received and then circulate the kind of draft response for all councillors for noting.
so it's delegated to you, it's delegated to you.
Yeah, so yes, I need to vote, but I need you guys to vote to delegate it to me to do this.
Yeah.
Do we want to quickly go through all of the 54 points and see which ones we want to answer and not answer this evening, or are we happy to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right, so, I've got
And vote on giving delegate authority to produce response based on the majority of views received by email.
Okay, so that is the motion. I will propose that. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Stanley. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you. I think we'll call that meeting to a close at 8:25 PM. Thank you everybody for coming.